Hi everyone, my name is Joshua Plummer. I am in CRJ 141 at Sacramento State for fall 2015. I'm doing this presentation for a class project that we did. We had to interview an active duty officer, write a paper, and present it with a PowerPoint. So I did my interview with Officer Timothy Renault. Officer Renault is 37 years old. He is male and white. He has two children and he is married. The agency he works for is Reading Police Department, and he's been at that department for 9 years. Officer Renault thought that he got into policing because he grew up next to a motorcycle cop, and that cop happened to be a sergeant in his department. He thought that sergeant had the greatest job in the world. That sergeant would come home at lunch, and Officer Renault would see him, and he would be ecstatic because he thought he had the coolest job in the world. Um, so it kind of inspired him from a young age to be a police officer. Um, as he got older, he got into he stepped his way up into law enforcement. He worked at loss prevention in Rayleigh's, and then he actually got his foot more towards into law enforcement. He worked in the Shasta County Jail. Shasta County is the county in which Reading is. And then he finally got into a police department. He worked at Antioch Police Department, and then eventually into Reading Police Department. However, that wasn't easy for him to get into his dream job. When he worked in the Shasta County Jail, he was actually brutally assaulted by an inmate, and he suffered injuries that gave him 13 plates in his bodies and 60 staples. Um, So obviously, police departments were not willing to hire him with that much damage already done to him because the job is so physically demanding. So he applied to a lot of departments and unfortunately didn't get accepted. Until Antioch had a lazy background investigator and did overlooked or didn't see that he had suffered these major injuries, and they hired him. They didn't find out until after they hired him that he had these major injuries, and but obviously they couldn't just fire him for that. A few months later down the road, he was contacted by an RPD officer, a good friend of his, and he said that he thought he could get him a job in Reading, back where he grew up. So RPD ended up hiring him because of his ability to get into Antioch Police Department. Although, even though he did have these injuries, and now he is a thriving officer there. He's wonderful. He's doing great. Probably one of the strongest officers that department has. He does have his associate's degree and is halfway to his bachelor's. He would advise that people looking to get in law enforcement have their degree, a degree of some sort. Although it is not required, all you need is a high school diploma. He does advise that it's in something other than criminal justice, that we have a backup plan, And like he said in our interview, a degree leads to more money. Officer Renault is currently making about 85,000 a year just with an associate. So, and the pay grade goes higher and higher and higher as your degree is of a harder level. I asked him about his attitude about a COP policing approach or a POP policing approach, and he said he would prefer a POP policing approach because he is that type of go-getter and he likes to see the issues in his community get solved, and he likes to be the one solving them. However, he does think that the community is still important to integrate. So kind of a hybrid strategy. He still thinks that listening to the community is very important, considering they're the ones that see everything. An officer or officers in the department can only see so much. So he likes the aggressive aspect of a POP approach, but loves the community aspect of asking the community what's going on and what they think needs to be fixed. Officer Renault also said that certain problems need certain approaches. For instance, Reading has a big transient problem. The transient problem needs more of a community approach because that's something the community wants to see go away. Whereas the sex trafficking issue in Reading needs more of a POP approach because it needs to be a zero tolerance thing, and they need to get that. Need to stop that in the city. So thank you very much for your time, Professor. I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and thank you for a great semester.